Hey everyone, quick question before we jump in. Where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments because this story is going to hit home no matter where you're from. Ready? Here we go. Emma Taylor was just like any other 22-year-old college student trying to survive in New York City. She worked 2 part-time jobs while juggling classes, barely scraping by on ramen noodles and coffee. But today was different. It was the day. After months of searching, she finally landed an interview for her dream internship at a top marketing firm. This could be her ticket out of debt, her chance to prove herself. As she rushed down the crowded streets, clutching her resume and wearing her one professional outfit, a thrifted blazer, she felt a mix of nerves and excitement. The future seemed within reach, until it wasn't. Because sometimes, life throws you curveballs when you least expect them. And what happened next didn't just change Emma's life, it changed someone else's too. Emma was halfway to the interview when she heard it, a scream that cut through the noise of the city. First, she froze. Then she turned and saw it. A little boy, no older than 5, running right into the street. Cars were speeding by, horns honking, and everything seemed to move in slow motion. Without thinking, Emma ran forward, pushing past people. Her heels clicked loudly on the ground, but they slowed her down, so she kicked them off and sprinted barefoot. Just as a taxi zoomed closer, Emma jumped, grabbing the boy by the arm and pulling him back onto the sidewalk just in time. The boy fell into her arms, shaking but okay. Behind them, the taxi driver slammed on his brakes, shouting something Emma couldn't hear. A woman, probably the boy's mom, ran over, crying. "Oh my God! Thank you! Thank you so much!" she said, hugging her son tightly. But Emma wasn't listening. Her mind was racing, not about the boy or what had just happened, but about the clock. She looked at her phone. She was already 10 minutes late for her interview. Her heart started pounding. "I'm so sorry," Emma said quickly, still trying to catch her breath. I had to help." "It's okay," the mom told her, holding her hand. "You saved his life. How can we ever repay you?" Emma shook her head and forced a small smile. "Just keep him safe, please." With that, she grabbed her shoes and ran again, this time toward the office building where her dream internship was waiting, or so she hoped. By the time she got there, sweaty and out of breath, the receptionist gave her a sad look. "They've already filled the position," she said softly. Emma felt like the ground had been pulled out from under her. All that hard work, all those sleepless nights preparing, gone. As she walked back outside, one question kept spinning in her mind. Was saving that boy worth losing everything? Emma trudged home that evening, her feet sore from running barefoot and her heart heavy with disappointment. The weight of the day pressed down on her as she replayed the events in her mind. She had done the right thing. She knew that, but it didn't make the sting of failure any easier to bear. Her phone buzzed constantly with emails from student loan reminders and bills she couldn't afford to pay. Each notification felt like another nail in the coffin of her dreams. When she finally reached her tiny apartment, a cramped studio she shared with a roommate who was rarely around, she collapsed onto the couch. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she wiped them away quickly. Crying wouldn't fix anything. Still, the frustration bubbled over. "Why does this always happen to me?" she muttered aloud. The next morning, Emma dragged herself out of bed early to pick up extra hours at her part-time job at a local cafe. As she tied her apron behind the counter, she tried to push the interview fiasco out of her mind. Work was her escape, even if it meant serving coffee to people whose lives seemed perfect compared to hers. But something strange happened that day. A customer, a middle-aged man in a sharp suit, left her a $50 tip for a $4 latte. When she called after him, surprised, he simply smiled and said, "Pay it forward." Later, an elderly woman dropped by, ordering tea and sitting quietly in the corner. Before leaving, she handed Emma a small envelope. Inside was a handwritten note. "Kindness is never wasted. Keep going. You're stronger than you think." At first, Emma dismissed these moments as random acts of goodwill, but they kept happening. A coworker offered to cover her shift when she needed time off. A stranger helped her carry groceries up the stairs without asking for anything in return. It wasn't much, but each small gesture reminded her that maybe, just maybe, there was still some good left in the world. Still, the financial pressure loomed large. Rent was due in 2 weeks, and Emma didn't have enough saved up. She spent hours scrolling through online job boards late at night, applying to anything and everything. Rejection emails piled up in her inbox, each one chipping away at her confidence. One particularly rough evening, as she sat alone eating cold leftovers, her phone rang. It was an unknown number. Normally, she would have ignored it, but something made her answer. "Hello?" she said hesitantly. "Is this Emma Taylor?" A deep voice asked on the other end. "Yes. Who's calling?" "This is Daniel Harper," the voice replied. "I believe you recently met my son." Emma froze. Her mind flashed back to the boy in the street. The scared little face, the trembling hands clutching hers. What did his father want? Was he upset? Angry? I don't understand," Emma stammered. "Did something happen?" "No, nothing bad," Daniel assured her, his tone warm but serious. "In fact, quite the opposite. I'd like to meet you tomorrow afternoon if you're available. There's something important I need to discuss with you." Emma's stomach churned. This couldn't be real. Why would a billionaire, even if he was the boy's dad, want to talk to someone like her? Sure," she managed to say. "What time?" 2 o'clock. "I'll send a car for you." Before she could respond, the line went dead. The next day, Emma stood outside her apartment building, nervously smoothing out the wrinkles in her only nice dress. She had no idea what to expect. Was this some kind of prank? Or worse, was she in trouble for something? Her mind raced with possibilities as a sleek black car pulled up to the curb. The driver stepped out, opened the door for her, and nodded politely. "Miss Taylor?" he asked. "Yes," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "This way, please." As the car glided through the streets of Manhattan, Emma stared out the window, trying to calm her racing thoughts. They eventually arrived at a towering skyscraper with glass walls that reflected the city skyline. The driver escorted her inside, where she was greeted by a receptionist who led her to an elevator. When the doors opened on the top floor, Emma stepped into an office unlike anything she'd ever seen. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic views of the city, and modern furniture gave the space an air of luxury. Standing near the window was Daniel Harper, a tall man in his late 40s, dressed impeccably in a tailored suit. His sharp features softened slightly when he saw her. "Emma," he said, stepping forward with an outstretched hand. "Thank you for coming." She shook his hand, feeling completely out of place. "Mr. Harper, I'm not sure why I'm here." He gestured for her to sit, then took a seat across from her. For a moment, he just studied her face, as if searching for something. Finally, he spoke. "You saved my son's life," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "I wasn't there that day. I was stuck in a meeting, but when I got home and heard what happened, it hit me hard. That could have been the end of him, of us." Emma shifted uncomfortably in her chair. "I just did what anyone would have done." "No," Daniel interrupted firmly. "Not everyone would have done that. Most people would have hesitated. But you acted without thinking about yourself. You put your own life on the line for someone you didn't even know." Emma looked down at her hands, unsure how to respond. "I've spent days thinking about how to repay you," Daniel continued. "Money seemed too impersonal, so I dug deeper. I found out about your situation, your missed interview, your financial struggles, your determination to build a better life for yourself." Emma's eyes widened. "You looked into my life? I hope you don't mind," he said quickly. "I wanted to understand who you are, and what I discovered impressed me. You're working 2 jobs while going to school. You volunteer at community centers on weekends. Despite everything life has thrown at you, you keep moving forward. That takes strength." Emma felt tears prickling at the corners of her eyes. No one had ever spoken to her like this before. "So here's what I propose," Daniel said, leaning forward. "I want to offer you an opportunity, not charity, but a chance to prove yourself. My company is launching a new marketing division, and I need someone passionate, hardworking, and trustworthy to lead it. Someone who understands the value of kindness and integrity. Emma blinked, stunned. Wait, are you offering me a job? A position far beyond anything you applied for, Daniel clarified. It'll come with challenges, long hours, and high expectations. But if you accept, I promise you'll have the resources and support to succeed. For a moment, Emma couldn't speak. This was more than she'd ever dreamed of. Yet doubt crept in. Why me? There must be hundreds of qualified candidates. Daniel smiled faintly. Because sometimes skills can be taught. Character cannot. And yours shines brighter than most. Emma left Daniel Harper's office that afternoon feeling like she was walking on air. Her mind raced with questions, excitement, and a pinch of disbelief. Had this really just happened? Was she dreaming? But the business card he'd handed her, embossed with his name and the logo of one of the most prestigious companies in New York, was proof enough that it was real. The next few weeks flew by in a whirlwind. Emma threw herself into her new role as the head of Harper Enterprises' marketing division. At first, she felt overwhelmed. The team she led consisted of seasoned professionals who had years of experience under their belts. Imposter syndrome crept in, whispering doubts in her ear. What if they see through me? What if I fail? But Daniel had been right about one thing: her character shone through. Instead of pretending to know everything, Emma leaned into her authenticity. She asked questions, listened intently, and encouraged collaboration. Slowly but surely, her team began to trust her. They admired her humility, her willingness to learn, and her relentless drive to get things done. One evening, after a particularly grueling day of brainstorming sessions and strategy meetings, Emma found herself alone in the office. She stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, staring out at the glittering city lights below. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to feel proud. Not just of where she was now, but of how far she'd come. Her phone buzzed on the desk behind her. It was a text from Daniel. "You're doing amazing work. Keep going." A smile spread across her face. Those simple words meant more than he probably realized. As the months passed, Emma's efforts paid off. Under her leadership, the marketing division launched a groundbreaking campaign that earned national recognition. Sales skyrocketed and Harper Enterprises became a household name. Emma's name started appearing in industry publications, and invitations to speak at conferences poured in. But success wasn't the only reward. With her newfound financial stability, Emma paid off her student loans and moved into a cozy one-bedroom apartment with actual furniture. She even started mentoring other young women pursuing careers in marketing, sharing the lessons she'd learned along the way. And then there was the little boy whose life she had saved that fateful day. His name was Max, and he became a regular visitor at Emma's office. Daniel often brought him by, and the two formed an unexpected bond. Max would sit at her desk, doodling pictures of superheroes while Emma worked. Sometimes they'd grab lunch together, laughing over silly jokes or talking about school. "You're my hero," Max told her once, hugging her tightly. Emma hugged him back, tears welling up in her eyes. "No, Max, you're mine." Emma's journey wasn't just about climbing the corporate ladder or achieving professional success. It was a testament to the power of doing what's right, even when it feels like the world is against you. That split-second decision to save Max had set off a chain reaction she could never have predicted. What started as an act of selflessness transformed not only her life but also the lives of those around her. Kindness, Emma realized, wasn't something you did for recognition or reward. It was a choice, a quiet rebellion against the cynicism that often dominates our world. Yet, as her story proved, kindness has a way of coming back to you in ways you least expect. Whether it was the stranger who left her a $50 tip, the elderly woman with the encouraging note, or Daniel Harper offering her a life-changing opportunity, every good deed created ripples that touched countless lives. This story isn't just Emma's, it's ours too. How many times do we hesitate to help someone because we're worried about what we might lose? We tell ourselves we're too busy, too tired, or too overwhelmed. But what if Emma had ignored that scream on the street that day? Would Max still be safe? Would she have found herself exactly where she was meant to be? Life doesn't always give us clear answers, but one thing is certain: the choices we make matter. Every action, no matter how small, has consequences. Sometimes those consequences are immediate. Other times they take years to reveal themselves. But they're always there, shaping the fabric of our existence. As Emma looked out over the city skyline one evening, she thought about all the people who had helped her along the way. Her mother, who worked double shifts to put food on the table. Her professors, who stayed late to tutor her when she struggled. Even the barista at her old cafe job, who slipped her free meals on tough days. Each of them had planted seeds of hope in her life, and now she was determined to pay it forward. Karma isn't about revenge, she wrote in her journal that night. It's about connection, about realizing we're all part of something bigger than ourselves. And sometimes, the smallest act of kindness can change everything. So here's my question to you. What will your ripple effect be? Who can you help today, even in a small way? Because trust me, the universe notices. And when you least expect it, your kindness will come back to you tenfold. Before you go, drop a comment below. Have you ever done something kind and seen it come back to you in unexpected ways? Let's inspire each other with stories of hope and humanity. And remember, life may throw curveballs, but how we respond defines us. Be brave, be kind, and keep believing in second chances. Until next time, this is Beyond Words, signing off.